Fury from the Deep, which I know nothing about really, so we'll skip that one as there's no visual. The Wheel in Space is the Cybermen again for the third time in Pat Troughton's season. Not the final, but the third time. Many episodes don't exist, but it seems like it could be a fantastic story. Cybermen invade the Wheel, which is in space. It's kind of similar to the moon base, I would say. Also, you get to meet Zoe, which is kind of cool. Zoe, sorry, is actually just there, and you can see her there. That's kind of cool. After that, it's season 6, and we start with The Dominators. The Dominators is a good story. I rate this one 8.5 out of 10. The Doctor and his companions land on a planet, and there's these two Dominators with quarks, and these are these little robot things which were supposed to be as famous as the Daleks, but obviously didn't happen. I'm waiting for character options to make quarks. That'd be awesome. I'm gonna have a whole army of quarks one day. I insist on it. But it's a good story. 8.5 out of 10, as I say. Worth watching if you haven't already seen it. Following that is The Mind Robber. And The Mind Robber is a 9.5 out of 10. It's a brilliant story, even if episode 3 doesn't have Jamie McCrimmon, well, Fraser Hines, in it because he was ill that week, and they replaced him with somebody else, but they made up a very perfectly good excuse for it, and I think it worked rather well with how they did it. But yeah, it's a great story, very entertaining. If you haven't seen it, definitely recommend you watching it like now. After this video, go and watch The Mind Robber because it is that damn good. And then we have The Invasion, which is the Cybermen again, and you can see them just there. The Invasion is brilliant because, well, I mean, back in those days we didn't know the Cybermen were going to be in it because it's called The Invasion. You watch it and you suddenly realise that it is indeed about the Cybermen, and this time the Cybermen look a little bit different to what they'd been looking like in the Tombs, in the Wheel in Space, and the Moon Base. The Invasion Cybermen are becoming to look like what we really know the Cybermen to look like. It's a fascinating story. Some episodes don't exist, but that doesn't really. It's still worth watching. 8 out of 10. It's a very long story, but it's enjoyable. Following that is the Crotons. The Croutons. Haha. No, the Crotons. A bit of a boring story. Doctor and the companions, they land, as always. And this planet has kind of been controlled by these robotic Croton things. You know, it's okay. It's got a few famous lines from the clips that we see, like right, fire away, I'm ready, and stuff like that. There's all sorts of quotes. 7 out of 10. It's good, but it's not brilliant. You should probably watch it one day, but not just yet. The Seeds of Death is the Ice Warriors. They return. Pretty interestingly good story. All about Transmat or T-Mat. Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of the Ice Warriors, and we'll later on see them in some Pertwee stories. It's worth watching. I'll give it an 8.5 out of 10. Actually, it's quite a scary story. Not literally scary, but you know, it works. So I'm a fan of the Ice Warriors. So I'm a fan of Seeds of Death, quite frankly. Did I rate that one? I did, didn't I? 8.5 out of 10, I think I said, yeah. Obviously this season is Pat Troughton's last season, but we do see most of the episodes existing, which is great. The only story that doesn't exist is the next one, which is the Space Pirates. The Space Pirates, I don't know much about it. There's one episode available somewhere, and it's about space pirates. That's about all I can say. And finally, we leave Pat Troughton with the War Games. The War Games gets a 9.5 out of 10. Fully enjoyable. I think every episode exists. Quote me if I'm wrong, but I think it does. Lots of episodes, fantastic. Shame to see Pat Troughton leave. Shame to see Zoe and Jamie leave, but they wouldn't have been successful with Jon Pertwee, I don't think. But overall, great story. 9.5 out of 10. You get to see the Time Lords for the first time, which is definitely awesome. So if you haven't seen the War Games, then I urge you to check it out as soon as you can. Moving on to season 7, 1970 it now is, and we are introduced with Jon Pertwee, and his first story is The Spearhead from Space. Now this is also the introduction of the Autons, which is awesome. Autons are great idea for a villain, very scary if you work in a shop with mannequins. As I say, it's the introduction of Jon Pertwee, also it's the introduction of Liz Shaw. The Brigadier is back. Now the Brigadier, I forgot to mention, is in The Invasion, and now we see him in a lot of stories, which is awesome because Nicholas Courtney, who is just up there, is fantastic. Very sad to say that he passed away. But yeah, a fantastic story of a Spearhead from Space. 9 out of 10. There we go. It starts off a bit silly with Jon Pertwee being a bit of a clown, but he's just getting used to his role. I mean, it is funny, I guess. It's cool. The next story is called Doctor Who, and by is called Doctor Who and the Silurians. Oh, what is wrong? The next story is called Doctor Who and the Silurians. This is the only story that Doctor Who is the part of the title. It's a little bit strange. They probably should have just called it the Silurians, but they didn't. A fascinating story. Gets a 9 out of 10 because I love anything to do with the Silurians or Sea Devils. It's a fascinating story. I've always been interested with what's underground. You know, is there a race of reptiles underground? I reckon it could be. Worth watching if you haven't seen it. The next story is The Ambassadors of Death. Bit of a wishy-washy story, this one. Gets a 5 out of 10. Not one of my favourites. I think some episodes are still in black and white, which is a bit weird. Jon Pertwee in black and white is a bit odd. Especially in Planet of the Daleks, which is actually just there. Yeah. I can't really remember what happens. I remember like these ambassadors in big spacesuits have come down to Earth, and I think we've captured them. Well, somebody's captured them, and therefore the aliens have captured a few of our space crew up in space, and they basically end up swapping them back after. I think the bad guys get the Ambassadors of Death to do like crime and stuff, which is quite cool, I guess. Following on from that is Inferno. Inferno is a very, very good story. It's one of those stories which I can just watch over and over again. It gets a 9.5 out of 10. Thoroughly enjoy it. Jon Pertwee's acting is specifically brilliant in this one when he gets like really crotchety and angry at Professor Starman. Loving that. Basically, it's about these scientists that want to drill down to the centre of the Earth. And it also touches a lot on parallel universes, which is fascinating. If you haven't seen Inferno, you're mad and you need to see it. Basically. Season 8 begins with Terror of the Autons. So the Autons are back, starting off another series, another season. So the Autons are very famous and very good. And the Terror of the Autons, basically, I am going to stop right there because my camera battery is dying. I shall return with another video, another part of this video, and I'll be starting with Terror of the Autons. I hope you've enjoyed the videos so far. If they're boring, I apologise. If you hate my voice and want to kill me, I apologise. But I will see you again, I hope, very, very soon. Bye for now.